Paul Robeson is spending the whole of this summer, indeed right up until November, in Stratford-upon-Avon, where he opened this last week at the Memorial Theatre in the part of Othello, the Moor of Venice. And it's indeed a great pleasure to welcome Mr. Robeson onto this programme. He's in the studio with Mr. Alvarez, the theatre critic.
Mr. Robeson, you played Othello in the 30s and then again in 1944, wasn't it? And has your interpretation of the part changed since then?
Well, we'll probably be discussing that as we go along. I would like to certainly say now that it's sort of the culmination of a dream of my life to have the opportunity of playing at Stratford, and certainly want to express my deep thanks to the company there. I remember 1930 being very frightened, my first attempt at Shakespeare. Spent a lot of time trying to learn how to speak English. But remember, the cast, Dame Sybil Thorndike played Amelia, Dame Peggy Ashcroft played Desdemona, Sir Ralph Richardson played Roderigo, and an old friend, Alistair Sim, played the clowns. And the 1944 performance was produced by Margaret Webster, the daughter of Dame May Whitty and Ben Webster. And looking and hearing the distinguished architect, Mr. Frank Lloyd Wright, I remember that we played Othello in 1944 in Madison, Wisconsin. It was my pleasure to visit Taliesin, and glad to know also that he comes from Wales, my beloved Wales. I would say that the interpretations were somewhat different in each performance. The 1944, especially stressing the poetry, and taking off and booming it out. And this one has been a very interesting experience.
Well, does the audience play any part in your interpretation?
The audience plays a very important one, I would say already. Not quite so difficult after the first night, with just the people wandering in who like Shakespeare. And looking forward to all the audiences this summer and winter. Most important to the audience to my mind, is what I feel Shakespeare meant, because I feel that Othello was a black man in a white society, and that the feelings of Brabantio, the father, the sort of the underlying hatred of this man when it came too close, is very important. I had an experience in 1944 of playing in Cincinnati, Ohio, which is just on the border of the South. And from Louisville, Kentucky, across the river, quite a few people came over. And for about half the performance, nobody knew what was going to happen. Everything was very tense. And I was very careful how close I got to Desdemona, for example. I didn't get too close there. And there was real tension. Let's presume, for example, that we could get on the stage and get out of Johannesburg. You know, this would be... Now, somewhere, I think Shakespeare meant this. An audience that would feel it that tensely.
I see. Well, now, this is not the usual interpretation of Othello. It's usually interpreted much more as a play about sexual jealousy. Now, are you influenced by any critic in this interpretation?
Oh, profoundly. In 1930, I took up the variorum of Shakespeare, and it led me to Bradley, whom I feel is closest to this point of view. And this has been established also and commented upon by Dr. Dover Wilson in the Cambridge edition of Shakespeare, in which he accepts very, very much this point of view. And I feel that this bears a good deal on the credibility of the jealousy, that Othello comes from a different culture. For example, suppose an English lad married, say, a girl from Malaya, and the Malayan Iago started on him. Well, he might not quite know what to do. This is very important, I feel, in the development.
The bewilderment is, in fact, a matter of him being a stranger in the society.
That's one of the things that would bear on the jealousy.
But you're not trying to push the jealousy out of the window, are you?
Obviously you can't put it, but this is an extremely important point, too. As Othello says, that he kills not in hate, but in honor. And he says to Iago, you know, I didn't see it, I didn't think it, you know, I slept the next night well. I found not Cassio's kisses on her lips, you understand? And if I had not known it, it'd been quite some other thing. But, so it wasn't just the act of infidelity, it was the destruction of himself as a human being, of his human dignity. And may I add, in thinking of the part myself, that I related that dignity not to myself personally, say, in a modern society, but to my whole people. Modestly, I've struggled for the rights of my folk, and I have accepted many personal insults. But when the insult becomes an insult to my people as a whole, then there's danger. I was once playing football, and my nose was broken. Well, I was quite willing to take that, but I suddenly realized that these fellows were saying that you are Negro, you are frightened of us. You are frightened of a white man. You run. And when I thought of that, the next play, I had a fellow about 165 over my head, and I was about to break his back. I guess it would have been the end of his life. Somebody yelled, all right. But this was an insult to my people, not to me. And this, I feel, is very important in Othello's defense of what he calls his honor and his dignity.
So what you're trying to do really is to make it a more complex play than simply the interpretation of jealousy makes.
No, I'm not trying to make it. I think Shakespeare
made it. I understand.
I
yes.
wouldn't dare do that.
But would you say this is in fact an older man's interpretation, that a younger man, that maybe you in the 30s, interpreted much more in terms of physical passion?
No, I came to this decision in the 30s as well.
I see.
That this was a play essentially of honor. And no, certainly one is jealous, but one might not kill for that reason. Othello represented a whole culture to my mind.
What about the modern critics, people like Wilson Knight, who've interpreted the play primarily as a poem rather than as a character study?
Well, I would say it's all right to interpret it as a poem, but it would be doing violence again to Shakespeare, one of the great dramatists of all time. The very essence is character. There's no reason why the poetry shouldn't reflect the character. For example, Othello, coming from an Eastern culture, is more ornate. As an African, one of Africa, you ever heard some of the great African orators? And my father was in that tradition. Every Sunday morning, it would be a rolling out of a great sermon, and now we bow down on bended knee, O Lord. And it became like an opera almost. And so some of the speeches of Othello, you know, arise, black vengeance, from thy hollow cell, yield up, O love, thy crown and hearted throne to tyranny, swell. Well, yes, it could be done, but Mr. Richardson said, now, Paul, now, wait a minute, now, just get some truth here. Don't quite roll it out so much.
Well, on this, on the question of Mr. Richardson's production, I'm not so sure. That I felt that he cut the play down so much that he tried to turn it into prose, and that, in a sense, this was cramping you. This
no,
was,
I would
you were only firing
No,
on
I would
6 or 8
disagree. What he
scenes.
said, Mr. Richardson, is that Mr. Shakespeare's words are there. I'm saying them, and they speak more or less for themselves. They don't need to be pushed along too much. Soft you a word or two before you go. I have done the state some service, and they know it. Just say it. Mr. Shakespeare knows what's going to happen. You don't have to roll it out too much. That was his point of view, because he was seeking for truth in terms of the contemporary audience. And I might say in relation to the production that I have must thank him and the whole cast. For example, I remember playing Miss Ewer, and there's one place where about the handkerchief scene, and I say, you haven't got the handkerchief? Ha, wherefore? And she has to say, why do you speak so startling, so rash? And I said, ha, wherefore? She said, well, please make it so I can say startling and rash or something. And please play that scene before the willow scene, which is so beautiful, so that I get something from you. So in finding her performance, she helped me to find mine. So with Mr. Wanamaker. So in the wonderful scene in the Senate to me, I came in the first day, and suddenly Mr. Ian Holm, as the Duke, established a relationship with me which I had never thought of in Othello before. Here was my friend within this Phoenician society. And I feel on that stage every night, I have a friend sitting there as the Duke. Well, this was a wonderful thing. I learned how to play with other actors, you know. Being a solo singer, you walk on the stage, and before you know it, you're out there doing your piece. So I just used to wait for that big speech and let it roll. But I feel I've learned a tremendous lot from this production. I want to thank Mr. Richardson, and certainly thank the whole cast and the whole company. And another point, every little part is played so beautifully. A cry off stage. Anybody just moving about, moving some of the furniture on the stage and so forth, some of the burdens on the stage. Every person, it's been wonderful to see this.
So you think that by playing the rhetoric down, they've increased the intelligence of the...
I feel so, and I say, every once in a while, I hope Mr. Richardson hadn't slipped in there the last couple of nights, because I've been playing some of the rhetoric back, but I don't want to go too far with it.
How do you approach a speech when you have one of your great... You're looking at first at one of your great speeches. What do you do then? Do you say it over in your own words?
Yeah.
Do you translate it into your own words? Or do you keep it Shakespeare?
Yes, this has been a great help in this production. We almost, what the actors say, we'd improvise. And I'd say, now, Iago's telling me, well, now, something's going on here. Beware, my lord, of jealousy. Well, what are you talking about, fella? We come clean here. What are you talking about? Give me the... And I said, well, I don't think that's all right. My wife... Why not? And then suddenly he says, well, now, since you give me the right to say so, I'll let it out. Now, look to your wife and look to... Man, what are you talking about? You mean that? You, whom I trust so much, telling me that I must watch my wife with Cassia? Then I translated it back to Shakespeare, but it makes little sense that way. And another point here, which I might bring out, is that the honesty of Iago is so very important. where you see
That's
me put
why
my
they keep repeating it.
hands on his shoulder. I've helped develop that, and Mr. Wanamaker's helped me so much in that too, that the honesty of Iago is very important. I trust the man completely.
I see. But do you think that this playing down the rhetoric is really just consigning Shakespeare to being ham?
No. I think it's possible to, in many characters, to speak the poetry very beautifully. I don't think Mr. Richardson means that. He was going for truth, and I feel that that the production is a beautiful one.
Is Othello your favorite part?
By far my favorite part, I must say, to be able to speak these beautiful lines. And I came up on Shakespeare, and especially here at the home of Shakespeare. And I love many modern plays of O'Neill. I wish I could play some of the plays of Casey, which I knew could speak Irish that well. But Othello's
real
my
language
favorite part.
difficulty there,
And it's like music to me. The music of Shakespeare, music to me, and poetry sort of run one into the other. Poetry is music, music is poetry.
And do you ever feel tempted actually to sing your speeches?
Oh, I often, it is the cause, but then I have to get work. In fact, in my 1944 one, they said I was singing a great deal. So I'm not doing it this time.
Yes.
I would like to say here, too, to express my deep thanks to the Board of Governors at Stratford and to Mr. Glenbyme Shaw and to his wife, Miss Baddeley, who was also playing Amelia, for their great kindness. I almost missed this, you know. I'm very happy to get back.
What other parts would you like to play in Shakespeare? Coriolanus, perhaps, or King Lear?
Well, I certainly won't go into that. I'll just be very happy to do well with Othello for a moment.
I've certainly done that.
But I read a lot of the poetry of Shakespeare and know it very well, and I studied in university a lot of English.
I see. Well, Mr. Robeson, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
There is a man in Wimbledon who will go on adding to his equipment until he can hear the sigh of the conductor as the piccolo misses its entry. Do they like music, or are they in love with equipment? Is it all for the love of a crossover unit? Is it a soft spot for a tweeter that holds these faces in thrall? Mesmerized by a feedback circuit. No bibliophile handles a rare binding more tenderly. But it's no good coming in if you don't speak the language.
Good morning. I have a 12-inch bass unit. I'd like to buy a Tribex tweeter, please.
Yes, sir. I have one in
Could I
stock
see
here.
one? Yes, so there's a 3x tweeter. That would cost £6.4. To go with that, of course, you'll need a crossover unit, which crosses over at 5,000 cycles and enables you to give the correct registers to the appropriate speaker. Oh, well, of course, that is no good to you at all. You must have one of these better class units, which has ultralinear output stages. The distortion factor on it is very, very low indeed, somewhere in the region of 1% at 10 watts output. That will be £6.4, 2 guineas, £1.4 and 6, £1.3 and 6, which gives you £10.14 and 7 shillings, £11 1 shilling.
Worth every penny. Record shops have turned into glossy cathedrals. See how the assistants have become church wardens. To every worshipper, a stall. Then down past a mosaic of shining record covers to join the mysterious ritual.
The day that the rains came down,
my baby don't care for clothes.
beautiful music.
My heart on fire, oh, I love you so. Ooh, I love you so. Hey, I love you so.
But first, that voice gets the treatment.
I'd like another one too.
I think perhaps a little bit more echo.
Oh, you better give him a bit more echo. Yes, okay. That's right, we're ready to go again.
All right, chaps, let's go for another one.
More on there as well. Okay, Al, 4 bars in.
4 bars.
Okay?
Quiet, please.
The singer goes into the soundproof box, swathes himself in silence.
Dream Boy, take 10.
1, 2, 3, 4.
You're all I have longed for ever since the first day
Give him all the echo you've got.
Let me walk you home after school. Come on, sweetheart, don't be cool. You know I'm your fool. Dream boy, let me be. Dream girl, you're for me. If I asked you, would you wear my ring? Would you go steady and everything? I want you, no one else will do.
grave men, high priests of flawlessness. With a dozen different recordings of every work, how do we find the best? Rely on the critic. Nothing escapes him.
Comparisons are odious, but inevitable. What are we to make of this version, for example, by Norki and the Albionia on BEP 709? The string tone is thin and boxy. There's faint background rumble, and the woodwind section seems strangely out of focus. John Terps, on the other hand, has given us a rather dapper account of the symphony on XZLP 4137. I fear the engineers have picked up a trifle too much resonance, so that fortissimos ring round the room, building up mush. But it's a glowing account of the symphony nonetheless, and very different from Norki's interpretation. The Würzburg Symphonica and a Zeugmar make Beethoven's Call of Fate in a rather more tentative way on RB 21495Q. On this pressing there was a suspicion of pre-echo. The recording gets shrill and coarse at moments of tension, and Zeugmar makes a little too much play with his wind. But on balance, this is a splendidly alive and exciting performance.
What an ear. Is it a religion or a disease? An American psychiatrist calls it audiophilia. And now, stereo, three-dimensional sound, the biggest contribution to music since Barnum and Bailey. A quiet evening with friends. And the new equipment.
Hold it. Shh. Quiet.
This is stereo, three-dimensional reality. With stereo, an express train roars through your living room. Emergency! And with stereo, you are there. Or you can witness a thrilling game of ping pong. Yes, great music can ring in your ears as fresh and majestic as it rang in the mind of the composer at the moment of its creation. A dream of perfection, of images larger than life. Of machines more sensitive than the ears they play to.